All right. This is what they want me to read. Today, I would like to introduce our speaker and tell you something that is extremely important about him. Well, our speaker is very, very, very bald. Yeah. Justin Jones-Fosu is a husband, daddy, entrepreneur, author, and speaker, in that order, who does the laundry and other household projects. He also happens to speak 70 to 80 times a year for corporations, associations, and educational institutions in the U.S. on peak performance, everyday diversity, and legendary leadership. And twice on Tuesdays, or Wednesdays, twice on Wednesdays. He just spoke earlier in Louisiana to the Department of Tourism, maybe. And we flew him back. He flew back, and flight wasn't canceled. So this is his second speech today. He's going to bring it home for us. Yeah. Justin's background, the Event Energizer. Justin's background is in human resources development, and he obtained his MBA specializing in leadership and organizational change. He has gained valuable leadership experience with 3 Fortune 500 companies. Justin was named as one of EBONY Magazine's top 30 young leaders on the rise. And he's here with us today, and he's the author of 3 books. If you remember a few things about Justin, it's that he's madly in love with his wife and loves being a daddy. He believes that these are more important than any accomplishments, recognition, or accolades. So, buckle up, get ready for this high-energy presentation where you'll be educated, entertained, inspired, but most importantly, a challenge to achieve more. Please give a warm, purposeful welcome to the bald laundry washer himself, Mr. Justin Jones-Fosu.
Living out in the city, I got Chuck's on, gonna say, I gotta kiss myself, I'm too pretty. All right, let's start right there. Oh, y'all can sit down, Awesome. All right, so let's start this thing off right. I want you to turn to the person next to you and say, neighbor. Say, you look good today. That's good. But not as good as me, right? The sad part, some of y'all were going to really mean that, like, you definitely look as good as me, right? Now, let me ask you, how many of you all have ever been to or seen, or no matter where you've been, a boring presentation? A boring one, okay, right? Now, as we think about boring, a couple things come to mind, right? And it might even lead to, well, a little bit of this, right? But I want to challenge the notion of what a presentation is supposed to look like. Because there's generally 2 different types of speakers. There's one type of speaker that's like super high energy and is like, woo, woo, woo. And the whole audience is like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing we've ever been to. And then we go back to our locations, we go back to our homes, our communities, and we learned absolutely nothing. All we did is we came back, we knew how to nay-nay, we were like, hoo-ah, hoo-ah. Yeah, but if you go to a speaker to learn how to nay-nay, there is a problem, right? On the other hand, there's another type of speaker. One that has some amazing content, but they read every single word off the PowerPoint. Like, T stands for, try to be a good leader. Why? Because you're a good leader. And after 5 or 10 minutes, we've already checked out. What I want to do is I want to give you the balance of both. Some amazing energy, but also some practical research-based content that you can be able to use as soon as you leave. So let's dive into this. Now, a little bit about my history. Now, can y'all give Charlie a big round of applause for the great job he did with the introduction? Great job, bro. Good job. Now, a lot can be said. I have the awesome privilege of traveling across the country, speaking about 70 to 80 times a year for corporations like Mercedes-Benz, Toyota, John Deere, Broad River Retail, to colleges and institutions, even 5th graders in Kannapolis, North Carolina, right? I love what I do. 2018, graduated with a Master's of Arts in Theology from seminary, and just had a really amazing experience as I travel around just doing this work. I love what I do. But outside of all the accolades, outside of all the awards and all that stuff means absolutely nothing compared to this. And this is my bae. And she is so fine. She's my wife of 13 years, Stephanie. And if I could be transparent with y'all, we are some goofy people. Any other goofy ones in the room? Okay, right. We're so goofy, y'all, that sometimes we wake up in the morning, we just start dancing with each other, just dancing. And then one morning, our dancing led to this. And this is had an amazing time, taking this picture. I don't know where your brains are. But this is our Princess Lydia. This is a younger picture of Lydia. And this is a more recent picture of our princess, who's #fierce. And she's 7 now. And we decided to dance again, and out came this little guy. And so a younger picture, a more recent picture is right here. And his name is Justin Peter Kofi Ayarabi Jones-Fosu II. Yeah, I agree. He's done an amazing time in kindergarten, right? And the reason I share this with you is that, yes, you should know a little bit about every presenter who comes before you. But I also want to speak to the totality of who you are, right? Because the person that's come from the HR field, one of the things that we tried to do for many years is we tried to separate and leave home at home and work at work. But how many of you all know that home impacts work and work impacts home? Right? There is no such thing as work-life balance. I'm sorry, right? There's a work-life blend. And so I want to speak to who you are as individuals, as spouses, as people in your community, and not just as professionals and memory makers in all the work that you do, right? So as we dive into this, I want you to think about a couple of things. Now, I did realize something pretty interesting, right? As I did my research on you all, and I tried to figure out if I'd be a good fit for this group, if I could be a good fit for you all, and I realized a couple of things that I want to show you. I'll show you a few members of the leadership team that may represent if I'm a good fit. Based on the blazer color choices, I fit right in. I fit right in. I fit right in. All right. Now, as we dive into this, I have to handle something very important. Now, how many of you all have seen any of the Old Spice commercials? You say, okay. Now, there was one back in the day where the guy was like, look at your man, now back to me. Now back at your man, now back to me. He had diamonds and he ended with, I'm on a horse, right? Now, whether it was that commercial or any of the other commercials, in those commercials, what did the guy possess? What did he possess? Confidence, okay. Some of y'all like Old Spice, right? All right. Somebody whispered abs. He had abs, right? But the C word that you mentioned, confidence, that's what it is. And when you take confidence too far, what is that? Yes, Kanye West. And so one of the interesting things, I wish I was joking, but one of the few moments as we have together, I want us to have what I call a confident humility. Confident humility. That means we're confident in the experiences that have shaped who we are, but we're humble enough to say that I can learn something more. And for me, this question began about 9 years ago, and you've been answering and talking about this question not just today, but for a long time here with great leadership. And that simple question 9 years ago for me was, what is your why? Right? Now, many of you, depending on how you've absorbed this question throughout the rest of the day, some of y'all may have gotten real deep on me, like, ooh, what is the meaning of life, right? And so there's these big applications and ways that this falls in. There's both a macro and micro aspect of why, right? We talked a lot about the macro components in terms of what's synonym to purpose and motivation and what drives you, the intent behind what you do, but the micro being something as simple as, why did you choose Broad River Retail as part of your journey? Why was this important for you? So what I want you to do, I think you've talked about it a little bit already, but I want you to talk again to your neighbor and share why you chose to work at this purposeful company. On your mark, get set, go, 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 go. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Everybody clap your hands. Can you go down low? What's up? I promise you, if anyone does any facilitation, it doesn't matter what you do. If people are like having a good conversation, they'll come right back with those magic words. I was like, yeah, I was thinking about them. They'll come right back, I promise you. Now, what were some of the things that you shared as it relates to your micro why? What were some of the things? Culture. So you came here to work for the culture. That's good. What else? Growth opportunities. That's good. What else? Stability. Right? Change. I could bring the mic to every single one of you. And even if you said the exact same thing, couldn't you mean it in a different way? Right? Because what we realize is that our whys are nuanced. And when we understand our why, the research has shown us that it helps us to overcome more obstacles, to have a deeper sense of resilience and grit than those who aren't intrinsically connected to their why, right? Because what we find from foundational components is that when you know your why, it actually impacts what you do. When you know why you do something and what you do, it ultimately impacts when you do things. And all of the above impact how you do. So let me kind of share a story when I first kind of came to this information without knowing the terminology. So I was this little kid, and we grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And one of the interesting things is that we grew up poor initially, had some stints with homelessness, single mom, 2 rambunctious little boys. And my mom would go to Salvation Army before it became cool. And I remember she would go and get like little sweater vests and bow ties. I swear she was trying to create a boys to men group. And one of the things is that, I was this little kid from kindergarten to 8th grade, like, hey, how you doing? I'm Justin, huh? Horrible voice to have growing up in the hood, but that's a different story. And I remember, right, that, we couldn't afford a lot of different things, but my mom, would make us do book reports over the summer, and we'd actually volunteer to go to events because we couldn't afford to get in them. And so, I was killing it academically. Kindergarten to 8th grade had a 3.8 GPA. Always one teacher gave me a B+, their fault. And I remember that, I was just doing so well. But I went from 8th grade, 3.8 GPA, to 9th grade, 1.9 GPA. And her name was Shanika. You see, y'all, I love Shanika. She was intelligent. She was gorgeous. She had it all together. I started skipping school for her, like, I love you, boo, I love you, right? And I started, hanging around different friends and stuff. And so I shifted from, hey, how you doing? I'm Justin, to, yo, what's up, son? Yo, what's up? Yo, what's up, man? And that's just not who I was, right? Now, I know what some of you are thinking in the room. You're like, yeah, right, Justin. That sounds really good for the presentation. But that didn't happen in real life. I'm glad you challenged me. Kindergarten through 8th grade. 9th grade. In West Philadelphia, born and raised. On the playground is where I spent most of my days. Right? You can clearly see the difference. Now, my mom made sure my grades improved. I won't tell you how that happened, but she did. And then, it's confidential, right? Okay, right. Now, the interesting component in all of this is that, I remember 11th grade year over winter break, I was still asking myself a question like I'd never heard before, right? Because I was still acting like somebody who I wasn't. And this simple question came to me was this. It was like, Justin, why are you spending so much of your time trying to impress people who can't even give you scholarship money? It's like, Justin, why are you spending so much of your time trying to impress people who can't even give you a summer job or an internship? And it hit me, y'all. I've been spending my why in all the wrong places. So I remember coming back, first day after Christmas break, I remember coming back, suit, shirt, tie, briefcase, Franklin planner, on a public bus to public school, right? And I remember my friends were going on a bus. Did somebody die in Justin's life? Like he's going to a funeral? But I didn't care because my why began to shape what I began to do. And I remember going off, to college, first day as an undergraduate, new student, showed up on campus, new suit, new shirt, new tie, skinny. The tie, not me. And I remember these 2 young ladies walked up to me and said, excuse me, professor, do you mind sharing what class is? I was like, well, no, I don't. Class is that way, right? Now, super corny, they never talked to me again, but that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is that my why began to shape what I began to do, and it led me to sit in the front row, to get involved in a fraternity, to join student government, to do all these things, to graduate at 3.6. But I remember that's really, really good for a student perspective, but let's bring it to us in our adult lives, right? What does that look like? And I remember, I just graduated from college and went to work for this little-known French store as a store manager named Target. And one of the things at Target, for those who didn't get it, and one of the interesting things is that I was working really hard, but my wife and I, we were struggling in many ways. And what's the number one thing that most couples fight about? Money, right? So we were $120,000 in debt. And I remember we decided that we were going to do something different. And so this big argument that we had centered around 2 words: Secret Santa. All right? So my wife was a teacher at the time. And one of the things we decided as a couple is that we were only going to spend $20 on each other for Christmas presents. That's it. We were struggling. We need to really kind of focus in. But at her school, where she was a teacher, they were spending $40. Now, if you do any type of math like me, you realize that 40 is greater than 20, right? And so we started having a really interesting debate, and it started getting heated, and we started saying words we didn't mean. Because I'm like, how are you going to spend more money on people who aren't your husband, right? And she didn't want to look bad in front of her colleagues, and the conversation led up, and we said things we didn't mean. We even floated things like separation and all these other things. And I remember at that moment, I felt super inadequate. I was not doing a good job of leading with my partner. And I remember that at that moment, I had a decision to make. I was going to do something about it. I was going to cry about it. So I went downstairs and cried. And I really did. And I remember I picked up this book that was downstairs, The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. I started picking up and looking at the testimonials and thinking like, okay, maybe we can do this. Maybe we can overcome. But then I picked up another book on our coffee table, right? And I started flipping through it, right? And this book is our wedding album. And I started looking through the pictures, you know, like the beginning pictures where everybody has that special pose when they first show up, like, all right? But then we got to the actual ceremony part as I looked through the pictures. And normally, like, what ends up happening is that there's like one person up here and they're waiting for this beautiful person to come up the aisle. Well, I want it to be different. I wanted to walk down the aisle too. Big mistake. See, because when I wanted to walk down the aisle, as soon as I stepped foot into the aisle, I broke down crying. Like, people were like, "Are you happy to be married?" Right? I mean, but I was so overwhelmed by the magnitude of that moment, and I was extremely happy. And we have no good pictures the photographer can tell you, right? I mean, none. But I remember I finally got to the front, and I remember watching my beautiful bride walk down the aisle and tears streaming down my face because I'm getting goosebumps because it was just overwhelming to see this beautiful image come towards me. Now, at that moment, I got goosebumps again. And I remembered why I married her in the first place. And it made all the challenges and issues that we were dealing with seem super small. Now, we still had debt. It did not go away, right? But it made it feel like we could overcome together because I remembered why I married her in the first place. And while I understand that may not be everybody's story in this room, what is that big why for you that makes even the most challenging of situations, challenging of obstacles, seem like you can overcome and continue to develop and grow, right? What does that look like for you? But I want to illustrate it in this way because it's not just about my why, it's what your why looks like. And so what I want everybody to do, I want everybody to stand up real quick. Everyone stand up. Now, this is going to be interesting in this room. It's going to be very interesting. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to walk around this whole section of chairs and get back to your seat as fast as you can. On your mark, get set, go, 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 go. And a half, a 1/4, a 1/8, 1/16, 1/32, 1/64, 1/128. Please don't make me do more math. All right. 1/256. Don't mess with me. I was 99th percentile. Now, what in the world just happened? Chaos. Some are like, I did more exercise than I did all week. Thanks, Justin, right? And it's interesting to me because there's normally 3 different groups of people when I do this exercise. So let me show you the 3 different groups of people. All right. All right. First group. I want everybody to stand up. Man, this guy's making us do something. Shh. You better calm down. It's too late to do anything, man. You better calm down. All right. I want you to walk around the whole section of chairs, get back to your seat as fast as you can. I saw you. All right. All right. All right. Next group of people. I want everybody to stand up. We're going to do something. Yes, we're going to do something. Yes. Awesome. All right, I want you to walk around the whole section of chairs, get back to your seat as fast as you can. All right, do. Ooh, way too many people coming that way. All right. And the last group, oh, I love this group. I love this group right here. Everybody stand up. All right, walk around the whole section of chairs and get back to your seat as fast as you can. All right. I don't know how one row became the whole section of chairs. Which means if you did, it's what I call the shortcut people, right? And it's interesting because if you would have looked from my vantage point, you would have noticed something so powerful that depending on which side you came out on, about 80 to 85% of you began going the exact same way as your side. Did you notice that? You just started morphing in, right? Some of y'all started going one way, like, oh, excuse me, I don't want to run into your biceps, and began going a whole different way. And this is actually a research theory called the herd theory. But before I break down the research, let me break it down in ways I think we can relate to. It's almost like this. Have you ever been to an event or something where you saw people running, but you had no idea why they were running? Have you ever been there? You're like, hey, why are you running? Well, why are you running, right? You had no idea, right? It could have been the track team from down the road, like, we're just all for a run. It's like, but why are you running with masks on? But the interesting thing is that this research theory, what it did is it looked at a group of creatures, and when this group of creatures thought that impending danger was coming, that they all began going the exact same way. The challenge is that sometimes that way was off of a cliff. So my question for you, as it relates to your why, is where is your herd leading you? Right? You're very fortunate in this company because most of society doesn't care about your why. They don't. They care about what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, will you do it under budget. Right? But our why is that driving force, that factor that propels us towards excellence, towards doing our best, right? And as we think about it, it lets us do things in a different way. And all of us are unique, right? Think about it this way. Each and every single person in this room is different, aren't we? We're all different. Some of us have long hair. Some of us have short hair. Some of us who are hair follically challenged, we just whip our ears back and forth. I'll whip my ears, right? Some of us who are walking to a meeting, we walk real fast, like, gotta get to the meeting, gotta get to the meeting, gotta get to the meeting. Some of us stop by everybody's desk like, hi. Hi. I don't know how long it's gonna take you to get there, right? Some of us have beautiful smiles like Colgate should be calling. And some of us have, well, amazingly unique, distinct, peculiar laughs. And those are people just trying not to laugh, right? They're like, wait a minute. I cannot let them hear the laugh. You know the kind of laugh where you could be at a movie theater, it is pitch black, you can't see a thing, and you hear the person laughing, you're like, Susan, I hear you laughing, Susan. You like the movie? I mean, that kind of laugh. But what we find in the research is right around the end of elementary school, transitioning to middle school, joining us to high school, following us for some of us in the professional ranks or college, as we meet people and have different types of experiences, this is normally what begins to happen. People become copies. They start acting the same, dressing the same, twiddling their hair the same, and if they don't have hair, their ear the same. And I remember this one guy at the end of my presentation came up to me just super excited. He was like, Justin, your presentation, it changed my life. He's like, Justin, I want to be just like you. Like, what do you say to that? So I want to answer as humbly as I could, I was like, honestly, thank you, but I don't think you can be that sexy. And then one of the things is I'm joking, I didn't really say that, right? But you didn't have to laugh that hard back there. She was like, you sexy, all right, haha, right? But on a plane ride home, I began asking myself, how do I practically respond to this? And I came away with this simple mantra that says this: don't be just like anyone. Be better for everyone by being the only you. Don't be just like anyone. Be better for everyone by being the only you. What does that practically mean? That means there are unique skill sets, gift sets that you only possess, your own story, the way that you got here, that your life DNA story, and that if you're trying to be a copy of someone else, you're robbing yourself in this community of what you truly have to give. But let's think about it on two different fronts, because there's some of you who are like, well, Justin, shouldn't we be like some people? And I say yes. Let me give you some examples. If you're the kind of person that always gets to your meetings late, you should be like the people that get to meetings on time, right? Very simple, right? Very simple. But there's others of you who are at the opposite end of the spectrum. You're like, well, Justin, I get that. I'm different. I pull up to the meeting with my ceiling missing. You may be the kind of person where if you show up 15 minutes late, and if the leader of that meeting really cares, they call you at the end and say, excuse me, can you tell me why you're 15 minutes late? And you say to that leader, well, leader, I heard this crazy bald-head speaker, the black one, right? And he told me. Oh, Zach's still here. He's still here. Yeah. He told me, don't be just like anyone. Be better for everyone by being the only you. And the only me is late, so no, I don't want you to get kicked out, right? We need you here. But what I am saying is take on the positive qualities of others while not being just like them, right? Now, how does that translate to us? You know what's interesting? I found out a couple years ago as I started uncovering some of this, is that if you don't know your why, someone else will lead you with theirs. And so it's super critical for us to know the thing that motivates and drives us. When you have a high why, it allows you to be strongly connected to it. A low why, people, they may know their why, but there's a loose connection. It doesn't really overwhelm and overtake their life. It's not relentless as they pursue it, right? Now, there are 3 ways in order to have a high, strong why, right? Number 1, we have to have a clarity of it. 2, a connection to it. And 3, a consistency with it. First, clarity, right? Your why should be so clear to you that if I stopped and asked you as we got ready to leave, hey, what's your why, both professionally and personally, you'd be able to tell me without a shadow of a doubt, 30 seconds or less, this is my why. This is what and why I'm here, my motivation, what drives me, my intent, right? See, let me put it this way. If I stopped and asked you what your birthday was, you would know your birthday, right? Because some of you've graduated to birthday weekends. Some people have birthday months, right? I even met one lady, she's like, the whole year is my birthday. I was like, okay, right? But like, we know our birthday because we rehearse it over and over and over again. And that's the same way that the clarity has to be for our why and what that looks like. So, but not only clear about what the why is and what motivates you, but also, are you connected to it, right? Your why should do something to you. It should make you smile. It should make you laugh. It should give you goosebumps. It should make you cry for not able to accomplish it. If your why does nothing to you, then one of 2 things have happened. Either 1, you never had a strong, intrinsically valued why in the first place. Or 2, you lost the original zest of your why. And if we're open and honest today, doesn't sometimes life just drain the why out of you as life comes at you fast? And that's why we need number 3. And that's consistency. It's what I call why stories or why symbols. What are those things that convey the reason that you do what you do? For some people, it's a picture of a family. For other people, it's that person that they were able to help. For other people, it's a colleague that they were able to mentor. Whatever those things are, the thing that challenges and uniquely identifies you, you have to be consistent. Before I get up on any presentation stage, anywhere I am, I remember the emails that I get 6 months or 12 months later that said the impact that's still being made. And I go back over those to recharge myself before I get ready to get on stage. What are your why stories? What are your why symbols that communicate your excellence, that why you're doing something? But we have to see it in two different ways, both the short and long term. I call this the 1-year challenge, and I give it to you today. 1 year from today, what do you look like? Now, some of y'all got real physical on me, like bigger biceps, hair. It's not going to happen. Like Bruno Mars, I love you just the way you are. I'm not asking about your physical aspect. I'm asking, what are your numbers 1 year from today? How have you better engaged your team members and memory makers? What new initiatives or projects have you begun? Right? How have you continued to decrease turnover? Oh, what are some of the things that you're doing in your own life? Have you re-begun date night? Have you finally gotten counseling? Have you gone to Financial Peace University? Right? Have you finally taken that vacation that you've been putting off? What are the things that you're doing 1 year from today? What do you look like? Who are the people you surrounded yourself with? And even personally, who have been some of the people you've had to let go? See, these are all powerful questions we must ask as we visualize and do a gap assessment and ask, where am I now? Where do I want to be? And what are the barriers preventing me from getting there, to be able to address those barriers, but not just the short term. How does this feed into the long term of what you want to accomplish? The generations that come after you. How can you leave Broad River Retail better than when you first came in? But one of the things that stops us in both of these areas, short and long term, is this wonderful word called meaning, right? And I'm on a mission to challenge how we see meaning, right? Because it's not about finding meaning in our work, it's about bringing meaning to our work, right? I'll talk about it in this way. It's not about doing work that you love, it's about loving the work that you do, right? One is outside of you, one is inside of you. Stephen Covey in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People talks about and researches this internal locus of control. And there's one thing that only you and I can control, and what is that one thing? Ourselves. But many of us, we spend so much time on the external environment that we lose energy and focus to be able to focus on the one thing that we actually can control. Now, let me give you some research behind it. There was a study done on hospital cleaners. And one of the things that they found on these hospital cleaners is that there was 2 different types of hospital cleaners. There was one group of hospital cleaners that came to the hospital. They cleaned the hospital. They went home. Makes sense. They were hospital cleaners. But there was another group of hospital cleaners that they engaged with the nurses and said, when's the best time for me to be able to come into the room? They talked to the family members and said, is there anything I can do to help you? They saw themselves as the extension of the mission of the hospital. Now, which group do you think had less tardies, less absenteeism, in general, a better overall performance? Both groups were doing the exact same work. Even some of them had the exact same manager. But one group was trying to find meaning in their work, and the other was bringing meaning to their work. And we have to begin to challenge our if-onlys. If only I had this. If only I had a better manager. If only I had a bigger budget. If only I had a better situation. If only I had a better spouse. If only I had better kids. To be able to engage right where we are and bring meaning with us. That, my friends, is what we can kind of control. But all this is important in our individual lives. But what about collectively? What does this number represent? What does it represent? Say aloud. Yeah, the year you started. How does your why feed into the larger why of this amazing company? Right? Because it's great to have your individual one, but how do you utilize yours in the collective nature of what you all are accomplishing to furnish, to inspire, to develop lives, family, other things, best memories? But one of the distinctions that I began to make is when I first went into the research behind this, is I started meeting a lot of people who knew their why, but weren't doing anything about it. And so I started asking, how do I help people to actualize this why? And that's why it's not just about your why, it's also how important is your now. Is your now. If I had to give now a synonym, I call it passion. So everybody repeat after me, say passion. No, you gotta pop that P with it like passion. Yes. Because when you have passion, you give it your all. But let me explain what passion is and what it's not, the way I'm at least describing it. Now, there's two different types of passion. There's one type of passion where it's you do what you love to do. And I tell people all the time, I would do this for free, but my wife won't let me. I love what I do. But the kind of passion I'm talking about is not what you do, it's how you do it. It's the effort, the intensity, how hard you go at something. It's a concept I call being on 10. Say on 10. See, because when you're on 10, you maximize that moment. Let me give you an example. Have you ever been somewhere where people have been dancing? Aren't there usually two different types of dancers? Some like, yes, because I'm the watcher, right? There's one type of dancer when the music comes on, it's like, hey, they're not going to see me sweat. Yeah, right? And there's another type of dancer when the music comes on, they're like, hopefully that's not you, right? This other type of dancer right here, they're so concerned about people watching them, looking at them, that they even remix it and go in slow motion like, remix too fast. They're not gonna see me sweat. Yeah, right? And this other one over here, they brought like 3 undershirts because they knew they were going to sweat out every one. I mean, they came ready to give everything they had on the dance floor of their lives. They didn't care if you laughed at them, put them on Instagram, Facebook Live, or LinkedIn. Not sure why you do that, but like they don't care if you did any of that because they'd be willing to give everything that they had. Now, my question for you is, which one are you? Not in real life, because we don't need to know that. But which one are you? As it relates to living out your why passionately. Are you the one over here so concerned about people watching you, looking at you, that you're not willing to give your all? You're the one over here that's like, hey, I brought my undershirts because I'm going to give everything I have. Now, let me kind of tell you a story of how this happened for me. Right? Now, I remember I came home from a trip once, and I remember I greet my daughter, and I love, like, if they're sleeping, I go up there and kiss them before I go to bed and all that kind of stuff. But one time my daughter was up, and I came home, and she was like, Daddy. She said, glad you're home. She was like, Daddy, and she goes to Cox Mill Elementary. And she was like, Daddy, this is a daddy-daughter dance at school. You want to go with me? I'm like, yeah, I'm a cool dad. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got some moves. I can do a little bit, cut a little run, So I have a really good time. But she asked another question. She's like, Daddy, it's not just a daddy-daughter dance. There's actually a daddy-daughter dance competition. And I sat and pondered for a second. And this was my response to my daughter's request for the daddy-daughter dance competition.
I don't do the most, but I do a lot. I'ma make a toast, cause we still alive. No big, I feel like pop. I shoot a shot. I'm coming in hot. Coming in hot, just like the fajita. I write what I live, my life in the speaker. I'm nice just like the demeanor. I'm feeding my fam, I'm feeding the meter. They got the iron, well I got the steamer. I bring the fire, but you never see them. I testify, I don't want to subpoena. They want my
Now, many of y'all wondering, did I get back up, right? Right. Now, you saw, like, I was able to show up and be on 10 for my daughter, right? You know, to go to the daddy-daughter dance competition and to be on 10. But before you go and herald me Dad of the Year, the most mighty dad of them all, and all these things, let me share with you there's many other moments where I didn't show up on 10. There was times where I showed up on 2 when she would ask me to come and play with her. But I would shoo her off because I'm too busy. There's times I show up on 4 when we'd be having a conversation, but I was kind of listening, but really paying attention to social media. So don't go and herald me as Dad of the Year, because I realized that there was other opportunities where I could have stepped up. Now, I'm super glad I showed up on 10 here, but there was times where I could have been on 10 in other places. But yes, I was on 10. But you know who else was on 10? My daughter. I mean, she was killing it, wasn't she? I was like, how you learning that Cox Mill, right? I'm like, are you? Yeah, well, it's public school, okay. All right, so just giving her, just loving her on 10. And I remember asking a question. I did a video, like, right after. I'm not going to show the video, but a really interesting video where, all her friends, after she got done, came up to her, was like, good job, Lydia, good job. She had her Beyonce moment, like, thank you, right? And she was just having a really good time, right? And I remember I asked her a question. I said, Lydia, what was your favorite part of the dance? And she was like, Dad, when you lifted me up. Now, she had no idea what she was saying because she was just talking about the physical aspect of lifting her up. But she had no idea how that would translate to me symbolically in lifting her up. And you want to know what the favorite part of my dance was? It was not the splits, right? But my favorite part of the dance was actually practice. It was practice, right? It was those nights where we'd be up late, and I'm like, don't tell your mother, right? And we'd be sitting there just dancing and figuring out, and we really did have a 50-50 partnership trying to figure out, like, what dance moves we're going to do and what we're not going to do. And she was like, okay, I want you to do this. And I was like, all right, I'm going to throw that hat. And practice, we practiced like we were in front of millions of people. I mean, we're in the living room, like practicing the splits and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we're just having a really good time. And those were some of the sweetest moments we had. And I realized, like, even in practice, I was on 10. And my question for you is, what does your practice look like? How are you preparing for your big dance? How are you on 10 when nobody else is watching? What does your practice look like for the big game? For the big conversation? For the big consultation with your customer? What's the Big 10 look like for you? For the person that you're helping to create new memories? Or your Big 10 when you go back home and they're waiting for you to enter the door? What does practicing on 10 look like and not just waiting for the big game? Right? But if I could illustrate it in a different way, right? Talking about it in a different way. It's like, how do we fight for this thing? So is Lindsay still in the room? Is Lindsay there? Lindsay, is she gone? Lindsay? Okay. Can everybody give Lindsay a big round of applause? Because we're gonna illustrate. We're gonna illustrate what it looks like to fight, right, for your why and to be on 10. Now, everybody say fiction. You have to say it with conviction. Say fiction. Okay, now Lindsay and I, we've been dating now for 2 years, and I came and met her. I was like, hey, how you doing? I'm Justin. What's your name?
Lindsay.
Nice to meet you. Would you like to go to the bookstore and look at some books?
Sure.
Right. First of all, it never happens. Don't try it. And so we go, and we're looking at some books, and it's like, up in the moon and the stars. Okay. I don't know why we're on the roof of the bookstore looking at books, but some time passes by, and Lindsay's thinking about breaking up with me, and I'm really sad. Some wet stuff even falls from my face. It must be raining. And as I see Lindsay, the first thought that comes to my mind is,
you used to call me on my cell phone.
And that thought fades away. And as I looked at Lindsay deep into the crevices of her eye sockets, I said, Lindsay, you hurt me. And I know you're trying to figure out if you're going to break up with me or not, but I just have one thing to say to you, Lindsay. I don't know how I'm going to say this. But that one thing I have to say to you, Lindsay, is, if you ask me how I'm doing, I'd say I'm doing just fine. I'd lie and say that you're not on my mind. When I go out and I sit down at a table set for two, and I realize I'm forced to face the truth, and I honestly must say, Lindsay, I'm not over you. I'm not over you. All right, give one more round of applause for Lindsay. Thank you so much, Lindsay. Now I do that in the middle of the floor, right? In the middle of your display that you just set up, right? And I wouldn't care if anybody was watching or looking or laughing at me, because I'd be willing to fight for what had value to me. And my question for you is, are you willing to do the same? Right? Now, I'm not asking you to go to your next meeting with those that you lead and help to develop and be like, hey, y'all, tell me how I'm supposed to breathe with no air. No, right? Because you may get written up, right? What I am asking you is, with that same intensity, with that same passion, with that same effort, are you willing to fight for your why in that same way? Leaders, are you willing to fight for those that you lead in that same way? See, because that lets me know when you're on 10. Let me describe it in a different way. It's almost like this. Have you ever seen or yourself gotten chased by a dog before? Right? Like, don't we run differently based on the kind of dog it is? Right? Right? If it's a really, really cute dog, right? We may run up to it like a bougie boo-boo. You're bad and bougie. Yes, you are. If it's a really, really smart dog, that can help us with the reporting that we need to do. But if it's a really, really mean dog, and I know what some of you are thinking. You're like, Justin, now is not the time for dog shaming. And I agree. But if there were 4 dogs outside today that were foaming at the mouth and barking like, "Arr, arr, arr," at that moment, what would you do? Run or stay aside, right? Okay, at this moment, do you care about your hair? Do you care about your shoes? You may not even care about your friend. Like, I hope you make it, Charlie. I hope you make it, right? Because you're going to be running with everything that you had. What happened to collaboration? All right. But this is the thing. You'd be running with everything that you had. But what if getting chased by a dog went wrong? What if instead of running with everything you had, you saw this dog chewing on Charlie's leg, like, arr, arr. Some of y'all are like, which Charlie, right? Like, arr, Charlie W? Or arr, arr. And all of a sudden, it turns its attention to you, like, and it starts chasing after you. But instead of running with everything you have, you start running in slow motion, like, Lindsay, Matt, Sarah, Sean, Zach, I'm not invisible. Doesn't that look dumb to you? I mean, can you imagine watching from like a second floor window? Watching this person running in slow motion, calling out people's names. You're like, why are they running in slow motion? This looks #stupid. I'm still gonna get this on the snap though, right? I mean, but this is what we do. And while I hope and pray that there will not be any dogs chasing each and every one of us as we leave today, there is a symbolic dog chasing every single one of us, and it's a dog called mediocrity. It's a dog that says, just be average. Oh, it's a dog that says, show up, but don't be present. I remember this book title, I keep forgetting it every single time I tell the story, but it's something like, I quit but forgot to tell you. They're still working on the job, right? But not just in professional stance, in a personal thing, I see where we often will show up and not be present. Have you ever been out to eat, been at like a restaurant, and you saw like a family eating together, and the entire hour long, all of them are on their phones? All of them. Showing up but not being present. I get it. I know there's like a 5-minute Instagram window where you're supposed to take a picture of it and then post it on Instagram. But we're supposed to come back after that. Showing up but not being present. Where in your personal and or professional lives are you showing up but not being present? Right? Because it's not really what we're running from. When we engage in our why, it's what we're running to. That makes a big difference. Now, I can't just leave you there, right? I come from HR. I can't just be on 10, fight for yay. No. What are your on 10 behaviors? What are the behaviors that communicate you're giving your best, your all? Right? Professionally and personally. What do those things look like? Right? But some of us, we don't engage on our on 10 behaviors because we get caught up in what I call on 10 comparisons. Where we compare our 10s to other people's 10. And so therefore we get deflated or we don't rise to the occasion because we're comparing ourselves. And my 10 is different than your 10. Your 10 is different than mine. We know the level that we can give, but what is your 10? The best you can give. If you had to rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, how passionately are you currently living your why right now? Before you answer that too quick, if we had to do an informal 360 and ask your colleagues and work members, how would they rate you? If we had to do the same informal 360 at your home, how would they rate you? See, these are the things that we must begin to ask and engage with. Because when we have a high now, we realize that this moment matters. How we engage, the behaviors that we do right now impacts every single a person that walks through the door, every guest that comes into our locations, that we can be able to serve them and give them amazing memories. Right? But what do we do with it? One of the things that we get caught sometimes is in cruise control. And y'all, I believe we have to challenge our cruise control. Now let me share this with you. Do you know that you actually become a different person when you press cruise control? Like anecdotally, some of y'all start taking off your shoes. Some of y'all start doing yoga in the seats. I'm like, what are y'all doing, right? But you become a different person. And actually there's research that back this up. They did a study on pilots and also drivers. And what they found was when pilots pressed autopilot and when drivers pressed cruise control, that they shifted from an active mindset to a passive one. One, they were actively engaging the environment around them, and the other, they were just simply coasting. And so where in your life might you have just been coasting? Just been along for the ride versus actively engaged. Now, I want to give you, no matter where you are in that question, I want to give you 4 research-based ways to challenge your cruise control and have a high now. It's what I call the principle of the frog, the step, the seed, and the smile. The frog, the step, the seed, and the smile. The first, the principle of the frog. Mark Twain, if I could paraphrase, many years ago said, if you eat a frog in the morning, everything else will go down easy. All right? Brian Tracy, Goal Guru, wrote a book called Eat That Frog. And the principle of the frog is that you do the hardest, most challenging, daunting thing first. But when do we often put the hardest, most challenging, daunting thing off to? Last. And last becomes sometimes when? Never, right? Remember that teacher, whether it was a professor or a teacher in high school, that gave us that paper that was due October 29th? When do we start working on it? Something like 12:01 a.m., October 29th, right? Right? We sometimes put the hardest thing off to last. But what if you gave your best energy, your most focus, the effort and intensity that you can be able to give to the first things? And I want you to think about this in a daily, a weekly, or a monthly rhythm. Right? How do you give and devour that frog? My friend many years ago, he's a pastor in Harlem now. He said, Justin, I realized something powerful that you don't devour the frog now, it turns into a fire-breathing dragon later. So how are you devouring your frog, right? My wife and I, we joke sometimes with each other, like we just ask, like, hey, what's your frog today? Right? What frog? And even if it's just your 15 to 30 minutes. Now, there are 3 things that are killing your productivity. Yes, it's great to have a great why, but if you're not productive with it, 3 things killing it from a productive perspective. When the first thing that we do, whether personally or professionally, is check email. Kills our day. Number 2, checking social media. Killing our day. And number 3, checking the news. It's killing our day. Great research, Harvard Business Review had a great article about how negative news actually not only impacts our mood, but it actually impacts our work in a negative way. And most of the news is what? Negative. So what if you just, I'm not saying don't check these things. I'm just saying, what if that's not the first thing that you do? What if you identify your frog, the thing that you can give your first 15, 30 minutes, make some momentum, dive into that thing, and that allows you to have traction throughout the day, right? Now, the other thing, what we've seen in the research is that to-do lists aren't as effective as we think, right? Now, what the research has shown is that if we can shift from to-do list to what's called to schedule list, that we'll have a better opportunity to actually get more done. Why? Why does that happen? 2 reasons. 1, that we've finally thought about it in a unique and different way than just simply putting on a list or a parking lot to one day do. But 2, we actually give it a time frame of how long it's actually going to take us to do it. And if we can't accomplish it in that day, we may be able to say, okay, I can get this 3 hours block in here, and I may be able to get 2 hours in next week. But you actually thought about it in ways that you would have never thought about it before. So let's transition from to-do list to what's called to schedule list. Principle of the frog. Principle of the step is this, all right? In a book called The Progress Principle, they interviewed over 12,000 workers, and what they found was that if they felt like they were making progress or steps forward, that they felt healthier, happier, and better about what they call their IWL, or inner work life. So they even found that even if it was incremental, that if people felt like they were doing something that was meaningful to them, that they felt better about their work. So where are you building in, whether in your daily, weekly, or monthly rhythm, things that are meaningful for you, right? Now I know we're getting on this high, like, I love everything I do, yay! There's just some things we don't like we do. Like, I love speaking, I hate traveling. It's a really hard thing what I do. There's some things that we don't do, but that we don't enjoy doing. But what are those things that where you can bring the meaning with you, right? Whether it's volunteering to serve in the community, or it's engaging in new behaviors, or it's singing during the breaks, right? Whatever those things are, how are you bringing meaning to what you do and making progress? Are you looking up the places that you're going to finally go vacation, right? Are you trying to figure out, like, what counselor can we go see? Whatever those things, if you feel like you're making progress, you feel better. Principle of the step. Principle of the seed. There was a 5-year study, longitudinal study, on millionaires. And what do you think was the most common factor among these millionaires? What do you think it was? They were rich, yes. With worldly possessions. Hashtag Chaplain. All right. Or happy? No. The most common factor that helped them to become millionaires. What do you think it was? They hung around other millionaires? Nope. They took a risk? Nope. Woke up early? Nope. Discipline? Nope. Time management? Nope. Purpose? Say it again? Penny pinchers? Nope. The number one common factor amongst these millionaires that they found was that they read every single day for at least 30 minutes. Now, they weren't just reading like any type of book. They weren't reading like Harry Potter and stuff, right? Or 50 Shades of Black. Don't mess with me. All right, I do diversity. But they were reading books that were helping them to develop and to grow. Books that were helping them. What does it look like for you to engage? And even if you can't commit to 30 minutes, what if it looked like you should start 10 minutes? Right? A chapter a night. You know, many of us have sleeping problems because we look at our screen right before we go to sleep. What if it looked like you just read a chapter of a book? Start spurring your mind on developmental things that can help you become a better leader, better person, better grandparent, parent, whatever those things are. But that's the principle of the seed. What are you feeding yourself? Because what you feed yourself now ultimately comes out later. And last but not least is the principle of the smile. Let me see your best smile. Oh, awkward. No, okay, we're good. Right? But the principle of the smile is simply this. It's what I call a hashtag EMOA. And no, it's not a mixture of champagne and orange juice. But a hashtag EMOA is simply an acronym for an intentional moment of appreciation where you go out your way to celebrate those around you in extravagant ways. Right? Let me give you a quick story. So we grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and even though we grew up poor, we had this really fancy dishwasher named Justin Jones-Fosu. And one of the things about this dishwasher is that sometimes it didn't wash the dishes. Don't know how it happened, but it did. And I remember my mom came downstairs one day. She saw the dishes weren't done, and she did one of these things. She's like, Justin, Peter, Kofi, Irabi, Jones-Fosu. And you know when your whole government is called? That you're in real trouble, right? It's almost like when the principal used to come over the intercom like, can you please send Tim to the principal's office? And how'd the whole class respond? And Tim walked real slowly. I don't know what I did, right? But I remember I came downstairs, and my mom came to me. She said, Justin, you didn't wash the dishes. And when you don't wash the dishes, you invite bugs. And when you invite bugs, you invite roaches. And when you invite roaches, rodents come. And when rodents come, the world's coming to an end. All right? She would spend 10 minutes on all the things that I didn't do. Right? So I one day I'm going to get her. I'm going to wash the dishes, come downstairs, dry them, even put them away. And I came downstairs, and we had the stairwell that would go right into the kitchen, or you can come in from the dining room. And so as I heard my mom come down the stairwell into the kitchen, I magically appeared at the same time like. And she was like, Justin, you wash the dishes. Good job. When I didn't wash the dishes, it was 10 minutes of bugs, roaches, rodents, the world's coming to an end. But when I did, it was just a simple, good job. And my friends, I'm afraid we do the very exact same thing in our own lives. We spend so much time on all the things that people do wrong that we forget to celebrate the things they do right. Right? And so I became on a mission to begin what I call extravagant appreciation. And what does that look like for you? And who are some of the people over the next 24 hours that you need to show extravagant appreciation to, both professionally and personally? I'm not talking about just a simple thank you. I'm talking about where you go out your way. It could be a gift, a thank you note. It could be something that means something to them. Whatever those things are, how can you show them that you care? Extravagantly. Now, my own soapbox is this. Now, who are some of the most, in our society, sometimes some of the most underappreciated, undervalued people? Close. Custodial staff, hospital cleaners, garbage collectors. Sometimes we walk past them without even a simple thank you. You know, and one of the challenges that I just started, so I'm not acting like I've been doing this for a year. I spoke at a conference called Biz Library actually yesterday in St. Louis. And one of the things that, I challenged them and then challenged myself, I was like, you know what? Every hotel room I leave, I'm going to leave a handwritten thank you note thanking the cleaner for the impact and the work that they do. And letting them know that I wouldn't have had the same experience without them, as well as a tip. All right? And I love it because I remember hearing a story once about an LA Rams player. Sorry, Cam, he needs to get better. And I remember this LA Rams player, and went up to the Super Bowl. And one of the things in the story is that he actually gave 2 tickets to the custodial staff member and his son. And he said to them, I want you to know that you're just as much a part of this team as I am. How can we show extravagant appreciation to those who aren't normally appreciated and valued? Principle of the smile. 4 research-based ways to challenge your cruise control and have a high now. But what I found is that there are different types of people that engage, right? Based on the why and now continuum, the 4 different types of people I found based on the why and the now. The first group are those with a low why and a low now. They don't know why they're here and they're not passionately doing anything about it. These people are called the wanderers. If I had to give them a TV show, I'd call them the Walking Dead. The next group of people are those who have a high sense of why, but a low sense of now. They understand why they're doing. They understand clarity, connection, and consistency, but for whatever reason, they're not on 10, or whether for fear of success, fear of failure, or simply because they're following the herd. These people are the thinkers who are constantly waiting for the 8th day of the week. The next group of people are those who have a high sense of now, but a low sense of why, right? They're doing a lot of good stuff, just in all the wrong places. And they might actually even confuse activity for progress. These are the misplaced. Now, a quick story about the misplaced. Now, I went off to school in Maryland and did some level of grad school at George Washington University. And I remember I lived in Baltimore, but would commute to D.C. And so one day, we're running late to get to class, and we're speeding through the streets. Don't speed, right? And so, I grabbed my briefcase. I kissed my wife. I'm running so fast to the train station. People probably confuse me for Usain Bolt, right? And so I jump onto the train, and I jump on. It's like a movie scene, y'all. I wipe the sweat off my brow. I mean, the conductor comes through, all aboard, tickets, please. I'm like, uh-oh, where's my ticket? Did I run on this train too fast? Didn't have my ticket, and I couldn't find it. I was like, where did my ticket go? Whew, I finally found my ticket. I was like, yes, thank you, Lord. Gave the conductor my ticket. I was like, here you go, sir. Conductor grabbed my ticket. He looked at it, and he said, excuse me, sir. This train is going to Delaware. Now, small geography lesson. Delaware is north of Baltimore. D.C. is south of Baltimore. I was going to D.C. I began arguing with the conductor. I said, sir, excuse me, you have it all wrong. I'm going to D.C. He said, sir, in 45 minutes, you'll see exactly where you're going. I start looking out the windows of the train, and this is not the normal way to D.C. And it hit me, y'all. I was running so fast to the train station that I didn't even check to make sure I got on the right train. Just jumped on the first train I saw that was getting ready to leave. And many of us, when we operate in a misplaced quadrant, that's what we do. We're going so fast, doing so many things. We're confused in activity for progress that we're going. We haven't stopped and asked, is this according to my why? Or even, let's take it deeper, is this according to Broad River Retail's why? See, these are the things that we begin to ask in the misplaced. But the last group of people are those who have a high why and a high now. They understand clarity, connection, consistency. They engage in on 10 behaviors, and these are the pursuers. Now, I have to be open and honest. No one lives 100% of the time in the pursuer quadrant. We don't. No, not from our research. People have spent more time there than others, but they've never spent 100% of the time there. So what do we need to do for each group? What's one tip, right? Go through a lot of the tips in the book, and you'll see that. But what's one tip that you can get from each of these things? The wanderers, they don't need a lot more activity. They need to connect to a strong, intrinsically valued why. And it's our role to either, if we're the wanderer, to connect, or if we're the leader, we're helping them to connect to see how this can help them in the long term, even if it's not within our organization, our company. The thinker, they need accountability, right? The spiritual realm, we talk about accountability partners a lot. I transitioned into what I call professional accountability partners, where I have a professional accountability partner. We meet once a month, and we ask, what's one big action item that we're going to do by next time we meet? And we hold each other accountable. When I don't do it, I have to tell why, and then I have to get on it. Right? Misplaced. They need moments of reflection where they can go away and ask questions like, do I like who I've become? And y'all, sometimes when I ask myself that very same question, the answer is no. And that's led my wife and I to, even at this moment, to seek and undergo counseling so that we can consistently grow and get better and learn. And the pursuers, they need to do two things. One, they need to mentor others. But two, they need to listen to one of the greatest philosophers over the last 100 years that simply told us to sit down, be humble, #Kendrick Lamar. Because we haven't always spent as much time in the pursuer quadrant that we'd like other people to think. So the real question in all this is, how will you fight for this? How will you fight for it? Both your why and your now. It's not just enough to have your why and to know it, but how will you fight passionately and give your best effort? And one way to fight, I want you to give the person next to you a big hug. Give the person next to you a big hug. That's good. That's good. Okay, Oh. That's enough hugs. So, some of y'all getting a little too excited about this hug, right? There's always like one person, no matter where I go, whether it's a organization, a company, association, or a church, that gets real excited and like, yes, thank you, Justin. I've been waiting to give them a hug all summer long, right? Now, have you noticed that there are different types of greetings and hugs that exist? Right? There's a nice little, the formal handshake. Hello, how you doing? It's good to see you, right? There's the, I'm cool, I'm gonna dap you up. Yo, what's up? How you doing? It's good to see you. There's I'm not sure who still does this, the hand hug. Hey, how you doing? It's good to see you, right? There's the classic, the side hug. It's like, hey, how you doing? It's good to see you. There's the I'm gonna give you a hug, but I'm not gonna touch you hug. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. We call that the church hug where I'm from. And then there's that full-on frontal hug that's like, it's good to see you. All right? Now, hopefully not running around your locations doing that, or hashtag security will be called. But for those few people, and then HR comes, but for those few people that allow you to give them a hug like that, I mean, sometimes that's just too close, right? Even for my huggers. Now, where are my huggers in the room? People just love to hug, right? See, when I asked you to give the person next to you a hug, my huggers in the room were like, "Oh, turn down for what?" Right? And there were some of you who looked to the left and to the right of you and said, "If you touch me." All right? Hashtag furnishing life's best memories. Now, I don't care who you are. If I asked you to give the person next to you a hug for 90 seconds, and I'm not talking about that nice little side hug, that easy hug, like, we are a family and we're so much more. I'm talking about a full-on frontal hug where you're like, whew, engage. Many of y'all be like, nope, right? Because when you hug somebody that close and you're touching their one ab and they're touching your one ab and my one ab, and you're just that close, right? And for many of us, that's just too close. It's too uncomfortable, right? And while I'm not asking you to start a hug-a-thon in your location, that's not what Justin is asking you to do, right? That's not the kind of memories we're trying to create. What I am asking you to do is to embrace the discomfort. Embrace the discomfort, right? Anytime you challenge yourself to do something you've never done, initially it's a little uncomfortable, right? Embrace the discomfort. Right? Imagine you've been on 5, you've been open and honest, whether professionally and personally. You'd be like, hey, Justin, I've been on 5, and I want to be on 10, but you've been hanging around colleagues or friends and family members who've been on 5. How do they respond when you show up and say, I want to be on 10? They're like, this is 5. We don't do 10 here. And have you ever heard this saying, misery loves, but average does too? Average does too. And that, my friends, is why we must know our why and what's guiding and motivating and driving us. Because even in the face of average, that we're willing to challenge the herd. Right? So the real question in all this is what will be your attitude with it? I mean, you've done this before, but I want you to do it honestly. Don't do what you think you want everybody to know you think, or what do you think I want you to know. I want you to answer this question honestly. We're going to do a live poll. I want you to answer this question. How many of you all, if you saw this glass, would honestly see it as half empty? Honestly. Okay. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you. How many of you all, if you saw this glass, would honestly see it as half full? That's good. Thank you for your honesty. How many of you all saw this glass, honestly wouldn't even care? Thank you for your honesty. Right? All right. Right. And I remember, right? I remember this one speaker came to our organization, was like, if you could just see the glass as half full, your life would be changed. It would be amazing. I was like, dude, that doesn't work, right? So I was going through a quarter life crisis, 25 at the time. Guess it happens. And I was sitting there laying in bed looking at this glass that was half whatever, some clear liquid. It may have been water. And I was 25. And I was like, glass, half full, willing to try anything. And then something hit me. It was like, Justin, why are you asking, is the glass half empty or half full when you can fill the stupid glass back up? And my friends, that's our call to action. Don't walk around your stores and looking at other people or your associates and team members looking at them like, I wonder if they're half empty or half full. Probably half empty. No, fill them back up with encouragement, with extravagant appreciation, right? And for those who choose to drink responsibly, it's not a clarion call to go to your nearest bartender, hey, fill the glass up. Fill the glass up. No. It's like, dagnabbit. But it is a call to fill our own glasses up with learning and development and with mission and with purpose, passion. So how are you filling your glass up? How are you taking the action? Y'all, it's much easier just to ask if the glass half empty or half full instead of taking the picture and taking action and filling it back up. What does it look like to fill your glass back up? So I end with this story. This is my best friend and his wife, Jordan and Danielle. So Jordan is the guy I told you, church planner in Harlem. Started a multi-ethnic church out there, doing really, really well. And, beautiful couple. I met Jordan in undergrad. He and I started like a men's ministry on campus and different things. And he was a basketball player that went on to become a lawyer. Not only is he a lawyer, but his brother was a lawyer. His dad was a lawyer. His mom was a lawyer who became a judge about like 13 years ago. So you know where I go when I get speeding tickets at 485. And I remember, we went off May 25th, 2010. We went rock climbing for my birthday. That's Jordan and Danielle on the left, our friends Rob and Rebecca on the right. And anybody been rock climbing before? Okay, so you know we weren't really climbing rocks. Okay, so May 25th, 2010, we were plastic thingy climbing, indoor. And I remember I got a call from Jordan like I never heard from him before, right? He was crying almost uncontrollably. And beneath his tears, I heard him say, Justin, Danielle's been diagnosed with cancer. Now, I'm just curious to know in the room how many people have ever been impacted by cancer, whether a friend, family member, coworker, maybe even yourself. Okay. So you all understand the seriousness of this. But this wasn't any type of cancer. This was cardiac angiosarcoma. Cancer of the heart, the chest. And she was given at the age of 26 years old 4 months to live. Right. Now, Jordan began to describe to me the situation in the hospital room where the doctor takes him out into the hallway and is like, excuse me, Mr. Rice, I'm sorry, but the tumor we found is cancerous. And Jordan begins to cry almost uncontrollably because this is his bride whom he hasn't even been married to for more than 10 months. Right? But he knows he has to be strong for Danielle, so he wipes off his tears and he goes back into the hospital room. And a doctor goes in with him and she's like, Ms. Rice, I'm sorry, but the tumor we found is cancerous. And Jordan's like, babes, Danny, this is serious. They're only giving you 4 months to live. And do you know what her first response was? After she got choked up a little bit about it? Her first response was, well, I guess it's a win-win situation. Because either I'll be healed or I'll be in heaven. And what amazed me, y'all, is that she could see a win-win situation on her quote-unquote deathbed. And it made me ask myself the question, Justin, what's your excuse for not seeing life as win-win? And I walked away from that challenging situation with a mantra that I often fail at that simply says that there are people who would love to have my bad days. And I would say the exact same thing for every single one of you in this room. There are people who will switch spots with you in a heartbeat. All right? Now, I'm not saying that this is easy. All right? I'm not doing some positive motivation stuff. That's not what I'm saying. Because there's three things I'm not saying. Number one, I'm not saying that this is easy. It's like turning on a switch, like, woo, everything's good now, yay! No, that's fake, right? It takes help, anytime supernatural help to help us through all the challenges and things that we encounter and go through. Number one, I'm not saying it's easy. Number two, I'm not saying that what you're going through is insignificant. No, I'm not saying that either. Because many of you are going through some real things that in the next 4 to 5 weeks you need to engage the chaplains to help you to walk through this. For some, further counseling. But 3, I'm not telling you that I'm perfect at this. I'm not. There are many times where I want to go off. I remember one time the airline lost my luggage. I lost my robe, my speakers. Michael Jackson had at the time, right? And I remember I was just pacing back and forth throughout the terminal, getting ready to go off with the person at the front counter, and something hit me. It was like, Justin, wait a minute, you have a job. And not only do you have a job, but you get to do what you love. Not only that, you can replace everything that was lost. You see, y'all, my situation never changed. Just my perception. So my question for you is, how will you engage no matter what you're going through and asking, man, are the people who would love to have my bad days right now? Right. That's attitude. That's attitude. So my question is, what will you do? What will you do? All right? You've gone through this amazing day. You've learned how to coach to the why. You learned about invisible leaders. You learned about how to engage. You've had purposeful breaks. You've had all of these amazing speakers and things and teammates and power and pumped up. And the question that all of us must ask is, what will we actually do? What's 1 to 3 practical action items you can take from this whole day and put into practice? Rank them 1 to 3. And then beginning on number 1. See, what many people make the mistake of, they try to do too much all at once and they do nothing. They get overwhelmed. So my question is, what will you do? All right? How will you take action? All right? What will you do? Is it extravagant appreciation? Is that to write out your why statement or why stories or symbols? All right? Is it identifying an accountability partner? Is it applying one of the principles of the frog step, seed, and a smile? Whatever that thing is, my question for you is, what will you practically do? Right. One way for me to help give you more than what I can in our time together, I'll give this to you. It's if you text Why Matters Now to 44222. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, no strings attached. But I give you 30 practical ways for you to achieve more with your why and now. And for leaders, 30 practical ways for leaders to be able to lead others with their why and their now, right? One of those 30 practical ways for leaders is a 1968 study by Rosenthal and Jacobson, powerful study that shows and tells you why you should see the best in your people. Real quick, I want to tell you that because I think that's super powerful. They did this study in 1968, powerful study. What they did is they looked at teachers, and with this group of teachers, what they found was that they gave their teachers this list of their most gifted students. And at the end of the year, what they found to be true was, yes, their most gifted students did the best at the end of the year. But what's amazing about that is that the list was chosen at random. They didn't know who was gifted or not. They chose the list at random. Because what the teachers ended up doing is that for the gifted students, if they weren't reaching to their potential, the teachers said, what am I doing wrong as a teacher? What do I need to do better? Because this child is actually gifted, so I must do something different to engage this child, right? And then they flipped it on the side. The other side, they said to the student, like, you're gifted. Like, what do we need to do differently? You're not giving your best effort. So the gifted children, they charged it to their effort when they didn't perform the standard. But for those who weren't on a gifted list, unconsciously or consciously, they charged it to their ability. They said they can't do it. So they didn't spend as much time trying to help them. So the moral of that story is, how you see your people will probably be how they come out. If you think they're lazy, you're not going to give them assignments. You're not going to give them challenging things. You're going to unconsciously treat them like they're lazy, and it's going to reinforce that same behavior. But if you think they're best, you're going to engage them in ways to help bring the best out of them. It's one of the practical things that's in the 30 practical tips, right? And with all that being said, I'm super grateful. You can give leadership and all those who worked hard. I think everyone here is getting a free book, or they purchased the book, so you all are getting a book. So give them a round of applause, because you all are getting one of the books. Yes. 7 years of research and 3 years of writing have finally produced your Why Matters Now, all right? And super, super thankful for me, is I love to stay connected with you. I'm Justin Inspires everywhere. I'm actually here in Charlotte. This is a busy season for me, but I do respond to emails. And/or we have an amazing, amazing person. Can you all do me a huge favor? She normally doesn't get a chance to travel with me, but my business manager is here, Dari Crawford. Do you all mind giving her a big round of applause real quick? Thank you, Dari. Thank you. what we forget to tell people is that I actually work for her, and she tells me where to go and what to do, right? And so with all that being said, on my end, right, there's one thing left to do, right? So I want you to stand up real quick. I want you to put your hands together like this. All right. Now, I want you to follow hard after me. Be on 10. Don't care what your neighbor looks like. All right, you ready? Like this, y'all. I like this, y'all. I like this, y'all. Now put your right hand in the air. Come on. Now put your right hand in the air. Come on. And to the left. And to the left. Your other left. Your other left. And put your left hand in the air. Come on. And put your left hand in the air. Come on. And to the right. And to the right. Like that nene. To the right. And to the right. Now both hands in the air. And both hands in the air. And scream. I want you to give your neighbor a high five and say, your why matters now. Give your neighbor a high five and say, Broad River Retail. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Justin Jones-Fosu. Thank y'all so much. So thankful to be here. Y'all keep furnishing life's best memories. Really appreciate it, y'all. Have an amazing, amazing time. Now, even louder than the applause you gave me for your leadership and all those who have worked hard to orchestrate and work through the logistics and everything that happened today, can you all give them an amazingly big round of applause? All right.
You guys want to ask Justin a couple questions? Or no? Okay, we do have a couple questions.
All right, I'll stand between you and food. I understand. Yeah. I'll answer real quick. I will not take the pastor approach. All right.
All right, I just have 2 questions.
Go ahead. All right.
One, did you win the dance contest?
Yes, we won the dance competition. And we're already getting ready for next year. We have a whole bunch of like glitter and stuff. Okay, all right, go ahead.
And what was Danielle's outcome?
Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah. Thanks for asking that question. So I normally don't tell that side of the story. I don't tell it in the presentation on purpose. So what ended up happening is she was given for 4 months, and the cancer went into remission, which we were super excited about. And then it came back. And so it lasted 10 months, right? And so even though they gave her 4 months, she had 10 months. And right before she was getting ready to, when she knew that she was going to die, she told Jordan, "You're not going to be that dude. You're gonna get remarried." She's like, "I want you to have kids, and you're not going to be sitting around moping around the house." And she gave what I call him permission to live. And so she passed that next March. And Jordan ended up a few years later marrying a young lady, and they have 2 beautiful little boys now. And the woman he married, actually lost her husband 75 days after they got married. Wow. In a car accident or a motorcycle accident. And so their first date was 6 hours of them just crying to each other's story. Wow. Yeah. And so that, thank you. I normally don't share that part, but that's, yeah. So she gave him permission to live. And for me, that's part of my commitment, as much as I can, to be able to share her outlook. Not necessarily what happened, but her outlook. So thank you for asking. That's good. Any other quick questions? He's like, "Where's the food?" Okay. All right. Thank you again. I appreciate it. All right.
Thank you.